If we'll stand, I'll have an invocation and a pledge of allegiance. May we bow in an attitude of prayer. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for the night of rest. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for Washington County and its fine citizens. Thank you for the opportunity to serve. Lord, direct us, guide us, use us this day for the betterment of our community and for the state of Maryland. We pray in thy name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good morning again. With that, I'll ask for motions for two separate motions for minutes of the special meeting held on November the 27th and also the 28th meeting.
Motion approved 27 special meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Abstain.
Okay. November the 28th.
Motion to approve 28th minutes.
Second.
Motion is second to approve November 28th. All in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you. 5-0.
28?
Yes. Okay, see you. That's right.
And I was not here on the 27th, so I abstained.
Right. So 4-0 on both of them. Commissioners' reports and comments. Mr. Kiefer, you want to go first today?
Sure. I just have one quick comment, maybe a question for our staff. I've had some people reach out to me, and I've talked about it before, the county's social media, and there's an advertisement out there that we're sponsoring and promoting and pushing on warehouses. And there's just a comment in there that I think might be inaccurate. I'm thinking back to my term, maybe the last term. There's a comment about no county tax dollars have been used to promote warehouses. And I don't believe that to be accurate. I found an article actually from February of 2020 on the Herald Mail where I believe the county contributed some money towards the widening of Waysville Boulevard. And while it wasn't directly going to a warehouse, it was required improvement upgrades that were needed in order for the trucks and that needed to come into the warehouse. So I just wonder if maybe we can get an accounting of that money. I believe the amount was between $2 and $3 million that we had contributed. That was in the last term, so I know that predates some staff, it predates some commissioners that are with us today, but I believe there was a financial contribution that we contributed at least to that one project. And I supported it at the time. Let me just say, I think it was unanimous too. Is that correct, Commissioner Klein? Do you?
Yeah, it kind of, I think it went in directly to repair the roads, not directly to the warehouse.
Yeah.
You're correct.
But it was required in order to attract that warehouse and get them here. And maybe we can have another review of some of the economic development incentives we provide to large employers. That comes from hotel rental tax revenue, and that's still a tax. It's usually not directly, or a majority of it doesn't come from local citizens, but it's a tax nonetheless. And if we could have a review of how those contributions make their way to employers as well. I want to make sure we get accurate information out to our citizens. That's something I want to promote, and I want accurate information on that as well. So I believe the amount was between $2 and $3 million that we contributed. If maybe at our next meeting we can get an accounting of how much that was, what source that came from, when it was paid, and.
Okay, I can get that for you.
Okay, thank you. And if we need to amend that social media post, if we could do that as well after we do the research. And that's all I have today.
Thank you. Commissioner Wagner?
But you jumped across the room there. I wasn't ready. Good morning. I appreciate, really do. We got a lot of emails yesterday in referencing committees and our intents, and sometimes the wording is maybe a little off in those agenda items. So, I was a little bit blindsided by it myself. My bad for not reading the agenda and studying it harder before the meeting. But, even though the emails sometimes are nasty and judgmental, that's what we signed up for, and it gets our attention. And our true mission with any committee is to make it reorganize and make it work better for the community, and make it work better for our needs and the community's needs. That's the true mission of any committee. We review them all the time. Sometimes they just doesn't happen, and we have to make some changes. But with that being said, you know, I do appreciate those emails. It does get our attention, so you're doing your job. So I think you maybe sometimes wait and see. Sometimes there is some wording that could have been changed maybe. Sometimes you wait and see what the true mission is and then give more input into if you don't like that true mission. So with that being said, I do appreciate it. The other thing I had was able to attend the Feast and Frolic down at University of Maryland Systems Hagerstown. They do a good job. It's a scholarship recipient awards for some of the students going there, and basically was a fundraiser for students to attend our local colleges. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Wagner. Commissioner Harvey? Jumping back and forth today.
Thank you, Mr. President Barr. And just a couple of comments here. First one I'd like to make is about the County Board of Elections, and they continue to work on the process moving forward on identifying and approving early voting sites. And there was a good article by our Herald Mail representative here Sunday. But what I'd like to say is that, our community should understand that the bipartisan, majority Democrat-led Board of Elections did a lot of work with a lot of public input using GIS maps, population, demographics, voting patterns. They did an exhaustive amount of work, and they asked the county staff for a lot of our technological support in laying out and overlaying that data on maps in different combinations to see where you could get the highest number of people access to address all of the factors as laid out by criteria and requirements by the State Board of Elections, which includes traditionally socioeconomically or racially underrepresented or disadvantaged communities, which, as we all know, I think the heart of that, for that category that I just mentioned, is in Hagerstown. And they chose the Virginia Avenue site, which is bounded on three sides by the city of Hagerstown and is within 1.8 or 2 miles of an alternate site at the library. And both of those two sites essentially overlap. You get marginal difference. But one is already fully equipped, staffed, and built and been modified for early voting, and that's where our voting site and headquarters is. I think it's unfortunate, and I'm disappointed, I really am disappointed that you could have leaders of our local NAACP make false, unfounded, scurrilous assertions that the Democrat-led local election board's intent and motivation was voter suppression. I don't think that was the intent at all. I understand the disappointment that they didn't choose a site downtown, but that's a different thing. Comments like what I saw in the paper, that the intent was voter suppression and the implications of that are just unfounded and wrong. And unfortunately, I find them divisive and unnecessarily so. Perhaps that is not what she wanted as an outcome, but I know we have County Election Board staff that work really hard and they can't respond. We have the people on the election board, majority Democrats, and you're impugning them at the same time. I hope that was not the intent, because I thought the board came up with a equitable and inclusive outcome that provides opportunities for voters of disadvantaged traditional socioeconomic and racial and otherwise. So we're going to move on with this. The board is going to meet on December 12th and make some considerations. No one knows what those are going to be. There were numerous other sites that were under consideration by the board previously that made, from a scientific, analytical, database-driven approach, considering all of the factors and requirements as outlined by the state board, made more sense than putting it at the library. Now, I can understand maybe not choosing Hancock. The board's got more work to do, but the divisive intent of some of the language, I think, was disappointing. And then just to piggyback on what Randy said about the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Board, I wasn't here for the meetings on that previously, but from what I understand, it has not made any contributions, policy recommendations, has not even had a meeting where they had sufficient attendance for a quorum, and that's unfortunate. I hope that, when we look at this issue later on, that we can think of ways to make that process and that board work better, possibly renamed with new leadership, new mission, and working harder together, us here on the board, on the county commissioners, but also with representatives like from from Zion Church, I see here, and others. We can get participation in this board, okay? This Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Board, whether it's going to stay named that or be changed to something else. But we'll discuss that later. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you,
Mr.
Commissioner
Klein.
Barr. I want to begin with the Rural Heritage Museum had their Christmas open house over the weekend. It was well attended on Saturday and Sunday. People were gathering. I do want to congratulate and praise them for all the work they do down at that museum. And our Washington County 4-H Club was there helping kids with crafts. It was a very interactive event. And if you've never been to the Rural Heritage Museum, you need to get down there and take a couple hours and walk through the history of agriculture in Washington County. I also attended the Boonesboro tree lighting last Friday evening. It was Christmas, hometown Christmas in Boonesboro, and they did a very good job. The Boonesboro band ushered Santa Claus in, and there was a large crowd waiting for Santa. I did attend the Springfield Barn Celebration of Trees. If you get a chance to go to Williamsport, please stop in there and see some of the memory trees. For the record, one of my friends passed away this year, J.R. Malott, a lifelong friend. His family had a tree there dedicated to his memory, as did other people with past loved ones, and some of the area businesses support that. But it's very moving, emotional, with the lights in that old-fashioned barn. I do want to also bring up the 33rd Luminaries down at Antietam this past Saturday. 33 years that event's been going on. They light a candle for every soldier who passed there. Georgine Charles has been doing that for the entire 33 years. Congratulations to her and her army of volunteers. Some of the Boy Scouts that attend there every year are coming from the same troops year after year. Scouts troop from two troops from Richmond, Virginia, 735 and 736 were there, and the Scoutmaster of those troops were there when he was a young Scout. So thank you for the volunteers and Georgine and the National Park Service. And Georgine also sent an email, I haven't forwarded it, I think maybe to the administrator, thanking the county for our behind-the-scenes support with locations for the kids to camp and areas to do logistics for the sandbags that light the candles. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Klein. Rumor has it you're Santa Claus.
They said if I keep losing weight, I'll lose that opportunity.
Good morning, everyone. Lots going on here, particularly over the holidays, and we just wish everyone a very joyous and happy holiday season. Be safe, enjoy family and friends, and the best to everyone. I will be, if Lord willing, if my leg cooperates, I'll be attending Winter Mako starting tomorrow morning, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week. So that is an upcoming major event for me personally in representing the county at Maryland Association of Counties. So I look forward to that. Couple upcoming events, grand opening of Ace Hardware down in Boonesboro. That's this Friday at 7:45 a.m. Also, the Leitersburg Raritan Club Christmas Party is this Saturday, the 9th at 6 p.m. And anyone have anything else, anything we're missing? Hearing none, we'll move into staff comments, and I guess first, staff comments is Barry. Barry Jackson, good morning.
Morning, Commissioners. Barry Jackson, Director of the Washington County Board of Elections. I'm just here to make you all aware of a purchase that we intend to make after the first of the year for security cameras for our ballot drop boxes that we'll be installing. This is something that is required, and we were not made aware of its requirement until earlier this year. And so that's why we did not put it in our original budget to purchase these cameras. But we do have requirements to keep election records for 22 months. And so it was announced to us earlier this year that that includes video footage from ballot drop boxes. And so in order to do that, we'll have to install cameras at each of our drop boxes. And almost all of them are installed at municipal town halls, which already do have surveillance cameras. But what we found is that each town hall has a different policy about retention of video footage. And so some of them don't even keep video footage at all. And so we wanted to make it so that we could control that. And so and all of the town halls have agreed to let us install cameras at their facilities. So that way we'll be able to monitor that, make backups, and then keep those videos for 22 months. So I don't need to ask for any money, even though we didn't budget for it, because we do have some additional funds available in one of our contract line items. We're already well under budget in that line item for what we had budgeted. So there's funds available in there. So we just wanted to make you all aware that we're going to be doing that. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Questions?
If anything comes up that you do need that you did not anticipate, contact the county administrator quickly. We fully support County Board of Elections and anything you need to get the job done right.
Thank you.
Fully supportive.
All right. Thank you.
Next up, Chip Rose, positions. Good morning, Chip, and welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Chip Rose. I'm the newest HR director for the county. Pleasure to be before you this morning. I only have one item, and I'll be out of here pretty quickly. Staff would like to recommend that Aaron Overdorf be approved for the park supervisor at a grade 15, step 3, with an annual salary of $71,406 and an effective date of December 11th, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Have a second?
Second.
Motion and second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Thank you. 5-0. Okay, Dawn, Commissioner appointments to Retirement Committee.
Yes. Good morning, Commissioners. I placed a handout at your seat if you happen to need that. The Employees Retirement.
Dawn, microphone up to your face.
Oh,
You need to put it up to your face.
it was on.
Sorry. Let me start again. Good morning, Commissioners. I've placed a handout at your seats if you need that. The Employees Retirement Plan of Washington County, Article 11, the Administrator, Section 11.2, Retirement Committee, provides as part of the membership, the committee shall consist of a county commissioner appointed by the county commissioners as a whole. In general, the committee routinely meets to discuss the retirement plan. The committee discusses any recommendations, questions, concerns, and determines whether the suggestions should be recommended for approval by the Board of County Commissioners. There is no specific schedule set for the meetings. I believe Brittany Price is here with us today to answer any questions you may have about the committee. So I'm just asking a consensus for who you would like to be on that committee.
I would like to be on the committee if you don't mind.
I'm good with that.
Yeah,
Okay with me?
me too.
Okay.
Okay, I think that answers that one. Thank you very much, Commissioner Harvey. Any other staff comments? Yes, Michelle?
Thank you. I was in attendance of the Nutter's Ice Cream Shop when they presented the Ice Cream Trail Favorite Ice Cream Shop certificate, so kudos to them. The next meeting is December the 12th. After that, there will be a break for the holidays until January the 9th. We will have a joint meeting with the City of Hagerstown on January the 9th, and staff is working on scheduling joint meetings with each of the towns for 2024. Once those have been ironed out, we'll send you a revised meeting schedule. None of the dates will change. We just will have a few evening meetings on normal commission meeting dates, and that's everything that I have.
Okay, thank you. Any other staff comments at this time? Hearing none, next up is citizens' participation, and before we move into that, I understand we have quite a few folks that would like to make comments and participate here this morning, and with that, this is an opportunity for citizens to comment about an issue or issues of county practices and interests. This is not an interactive dialogue or a question and answer session. It is solely time to hear from our citizens. And I'm going to be very stringent upon the 3-minute rule here this morning because we do have quite a few. And first up, I'm going to call Dave Williams. Good morning, Dave.
Morning. Morning, Commissioners. Dave Williams, 11 West Water Street in Smithsburg. My first two comments are about your November 7th meeting. At that meeting, we learned that the money needed to support the new union bargaining agreement would come from the budget line designated in the FY24 budget for pension, because as our county administrator said, we, quote, kind of hit it there. Quoting Commissioner Kiefer, the budget we presented to our citizens wasn't accurate. We intended to use money in a different category than what we presented to our citizens. Commissioner Kiefer is not the only one who finds that very disappointing. In addition to disappointment, it also raises some questions. Were any commissioners aware of this arrangement to hide money in one budget category to eventually be spent in another? And are any other FY24 budget categories padded to allow for transfers for other purposes than what was presented to the public? Also at the November 7 meeting, during your discussion about dissolving the Emergency Services Advisory Council, Commissioner Kiefer called for comments from council members in the gallery. Commissioner Klein objected, insisting that comments from the gallery, quote, violates our policy. As someone who has attended many of your meetings in person and virtually, I recall countless times when commissioners called on people in the gallery to offer information on topics being discussed. And in searching the county website, I was able to find human resources policies, purchasing policies, but I haven't been able to find where the policy Mr. Klein refers to is recorded. If you have policies about how you conduct your meetings, please make them available to the public and your fellow commissioners. And finally, about today's agenda item to consider the dissolution of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And it is, Commissioner Harvey, the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, not the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. According to the agenda, quote, the need for this advisory committee has diminished and its continuing operation has become obsolescent and unnecessary. The need has diminished and is unnecessary. If a Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Committee is no longer necessary here in Washington County, believe me, we'd have national news organizations and sociologists circling the block asking how we accomplished that. Of course, the other possible reason for dissolving the committee is that you no longer care about diversity and inclusion. Hopefully that's not the case. If the committee needs to be tweaked or revitalized, that's great. If the committee has floundered since its inception, I believe there's plenty of reasons on both sides for that to have had occurred. I urge you not to dissolve this committee.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Next is Paul Pittman.
Paul Pittman, 9720 Cobblestone Court. As I was walking up here to the table, I was reminded of my great-grandmother who always carried a songbook with her to a funeral in case they asked her to sing. But I want to assure you that I'm not going to sing. I'm here to oppose the elimination of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. It might have been poor wording, but it really sends the wrong message to the citizens of Washington County, and particularly those individuals who are affected by the actions or inactions of this board. I know that there are many people who are or can be affected by both the rulings of the State Board of Elections and our local Board of Elections in relation to the privilege of voting and the way that could have been or has been interpreted was not healthy for the county. If you, and I think everybody up here is an astute business person, if you want to attract businesses, what you don't want to do is to ignore the fact that there is a problem of the lack of diversity and inclusion here in Washington County. If that doesn't ring a bell, just look around the room. Thank you very much.
Next up is Stephanie Phillips.
Good morning. Older business, this is definitely an adult-rated conversation. Parental guidance discretion is advised. I'd like to first compliment Washington County Goes Purple, Suicide Prevention, the Former Citizens Preparedness Day, and the Human Trafficking Protest as the best practices of the county. The last two, I believe we should bring back next year. And I would like to propose to combine these leaders with others to declare December World Peace and an End to Human Trafficking Month. North, south, east, west, intersecting interstates becomes hub for human trafficking, which is hard to define, but the spectrum could span overworked, underpaid, underappreciated McDonald's employee with no upward mobility to the ending of the life of Jesus. Peace and love is the reason for the season. Human trafficking, once defined as the oldest profession on earth, women being managed by men as supervisors, is no longer the case. 17 is the prime time targeting young men and females, and this has been exacerbated at the end of the monarchy meets industrial revolution, modern weaponry, and capitalism. Many have been drugged, tricked, shamed, and blackmailed. In some cases, it never even happened, to be recruited into these industries. Hollywood theatrics meets modern cell phone technology can create a sense of doubt. And when we think that this is now happening to young men and how it's happening to them, that same principle has been applied to females. Most people will never speak up for themselves. All want freedom, even those stuck in the organized management of these industries. You know, I can speak to personal experience, and please don't cut me off here. It will only take a moment, but at 17 years old, I was approached at Wheaton McDonald's across the street from the mall, wanting to be talked into becoming a model. I discussed it with my parents. They met the person. They seemed completely legitimate. Within a week, I had a job part-time after school, doing basic secretarial work. And then one Saturday morning, we picked up another lady who was young adult age, and he bought us some beverages. And the next thing I know, he was shoving us into a hotel room and pushed me in a chair and her onto the bed. And I had one of the worst experiences of my life. She said no. She said stop. And she struggled, but I'm sure it was rape because I witnessed him remove a tampon out of her body. And I sat there and I thought for the first time in my life, I could try to get out, but I could tackle him and wrap her in a blanket and get her out.
I need you to wrap
And
this
you
up.
know what? I am wrapping this up. I have not been told that this is a problem in this county, and I think it's because of the leadership in the Beltway Loop. We are not the place that this is most likely to happen, but we do have the opportunity to lead from example proactively, to raise awareness and make sure that we improve the condition for all young people.
Next up is Denise Horner. Good morning.
I'm here to speak in support of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. When I was a kid in Sunday school, we always used to sing a song called Jesus Loves the Little Children, All the Little Children of the World. Red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in His sight. And that's how I grew up. And I've always believed that, and I raised my kids that way. But when I also got old enough to see what the Creator had in mind, I realized that He loves diversity in all facets. Think of what your Thanksgiving dinner would have been like with only mashed potatoes. No corn or beans or sweet potatoes. Think of the world that just has apples and no peaches or strawberries. Think of a world with marigolds, but no roses or daffodils. And then think of a world and what our forests would be like if, when the chestnut blight struck, there were no oaks or hickories. Diversity is a gift from God, and He does it to delight us, and He does it to strengthen us and to protect us and keep us safe. And I think that it's important that we learn to celebrate it, and we do whatever we can to accept the gift of diversity and to promote it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Reed.
Good morning. My name is William Reed, Dr. Reed. I'm representing I'm the chair of Frederick County Progressives. I'm also on the board of RISE, which is Resources for Immigrant Support and Empowerment, and also on the Asian American Center of Frederick. Although not representing these organizations while I'm speaking today, I'm also on the Board of Trustees of Frederick Community College, and I'm also Vice President of the NAACP local chapter in Frederick. Although Hagerstown Community Colleges are considering dissolving DEI committee, not related to anti-DEI efforts going on in other states, including Texas, I would like to give a little background on what DEI is and is not. And my opinion is that we should strengthen local DEI efforts and not try to dismantle them. Diversity, equity, and inclusion refers to an organizational framework that seeks to promote a fair treatment and full participation of all people, particularly groups historically subjected to discrimination based on identity and disability. Maryland has a strong DEI program at its colleges and universities, partly due to the significant minority representation and elected progressive politicians within the Maryland General Assembly. There is a movement to abolish DEI programs, and the battle is not just in red states. The debate to abolish DEI programs occurred at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. We must stay vigilant against attempts to pass anti-DEI legislation and other efforts to undermine the democratic principles of fairness and equal opportunity. The following is an example of the defeat in ongoing DEI efforts and what we should do as a community to fight against anti-DEI legislation. The Texas legislation passed SB 17, banning DEI policies in higher education. The law prohibits Texas public colleges and universities from creating or maintaining anti-discrimination offices. The bill also prohibits Texas public colleges and universities from using state funds for non-academic purposes, including DEI-related activity. The law takes effect on January the 1st, 2024. The bill also forbids faculty, students, and staff from receiving critical training that helps prevent potentially discriminatory action against students. These trainings, are necessary for Texas universities and colleges to prepare for incidences of discrimination on campus and to take steps to prevent them from reoccurring. SB 17 implementation will immediately impact the ability to provide services and support for student success and retention. These services range from counseling to health care and more. This law is especially harmful for students of color, LGBTQIA+ students, international students, and other historically marginalized students on campus. So I could keep on going on, and I won't. But we need to fight efforts. Now, I know that this is not what's going on in Florida and Texas, but we need to do something now in order to fight the spread of this kind of thinking throughout our country. It's like a cancer. And so that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Next up is Angela. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Angela Yamashita from Hagerstown. I'm here today to strongly advocate for the preservation of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, as it plays a crucial role in fostering equality, understanding, and unity within our community. Dismantling this committee would undermine the progress we've already made towards a more inclusive and harmonious community for families to live and work here in Washington County. The Diversity and Inclusion Committee is instrumental in showcasing our commitment to inclusive and making our county an attractive destination for people and businesses from various countries and states. By fostering a welcoming environment, the committee not only enhances cultural diversity, but also promotes economic growth, innovation, and a vibrant community that appeals to a diverse range of residents, investors, and entrepreneurs. With all the pressing issues the Board of Commissioners can and should consider, dissolving the Diversity and Inclusion Committee should not be one of them. Instead of dissolving the committee, I call upon the county commissioners to honor and support the vital mission of the committee and to urge you to actively engage in supporting public policies the committee had put forth and recommended that to advance ethnic affairs, fostering engagement of all ethnic groups in business community affairs, and advocate for services enhancing the quality of life of every resident here in Washington County. Upholding the mission of this committee is crucial for a more inclusive and thriving Washington County, Maryland. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, I have no other signees on my sheet, but I know some folks came in. Anyone else that would like to speak? Yes, sir? Come down, please. And if you will, give us your name and address for the record.
Eric Schwartz, 16 East Salisbury Street, Williamsport, Maryland. I'm here to also express my opposition to dissolving this committee. I see no reason behind this action. The need for diversity and inclusion is greater than ever. There's been no shift in the importance of this issue, so I find it hard to understand the assertion that the need for this committee is diminished. It seems more relevant than ever. And I think that it is upon the commissioners to act in the best interest of the county, which means honoring diversity and strengthening our community rather than weakening it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Taj Smith, and I reside at 1358 Salem Avenue. I am the president of the Washington County NAACP, and I'm here to discuss the agenda item of the potential dissolution of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. The agenda states that the need for the advisory committee has diminished and its continuing operation has become obsolete and unnecessary. Using these terms is utterly disturbing. You have dismissed the importance of creating a fair and inclusive community. Is equity, embracing different perspectives, and ensuring equal opportunity and resources unnecessary? If so, let us know so we can hold you accountable when we cast our ballots. In an email submitted yesterday, I provided detailed reasons why it is crucial to sustain the committee. I gave broad reasons as to why diversity and inclusion are relevant and essential. I would like to make a few more specific points. This committee meets monthly with little support from the county commissioners. The commissioners have attended less than a handful of these meetings in the past few years, proving that you do not prioritize the needs of marginalized groups in this county. The county's website has not posted meeting minutes for this committee since 2021. The member information on the website is not current. No information has been provided on your social media or any other outlets. Yet you never miss a chance to make us aware of your farming and rural preservation efforts. The county spends money each month to show us the farming footage. We know where the county commissioners' priorities lie, and clearly it is not with us. The committee submitted a detailed report with recommendation to the county commissioners, and the committee makes requests and provides information. At what point do you plan to take any action? Your inaction shows that you do not intend to provide diversity and inclusion in this county. Have you collaborated with community organizations that serve marginalized groups? Have you exhausted all efforts to make sure there's community buy-in and participation? No, you haven't. It has not gone unnoticed by this board and throughout the county, the other committees, that you lack diversity. It's 2023, and this is the first time a woman has been a county administrator. Isn't it ironic that that's the same woman who will be presenting this agenda item? We are willing to collaborate with the county to help recruit members, facilitate open communication, and actively participate. We are asking the county commissioners to decide to maintain this committee. There is never a time when diversity and inclusion are unnecessary. No matter what decision is made by the commissioners, you will hear more from us. We will no longer go away quietly. As a branch, we will increase our advocacy efforts and ensure that these issues are no longer going unnoticed and forgotten. We will hold elected officials accountable for their duty to serve all citizens of this county, and we will persist in demanding diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thank you.
Any other citizens? Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Les McIntosh. Address is 18806 Fountain Terrace, right here in Hagerstown. I am a local pastor in the area, and I'm here to oppose the thought and the dismantle of diversity and inclusion. Much has been already stated with the facts, has been eloquently spoken, but I just want to add just a few. I want to bring upon your own website that speaks about the mission, which is the mission of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee is to advise the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, Maryland, on public policies relating to ethnic affairs, promoting the involvement of all ethnic groups in business and community affairs, and advocate services and programs related to the quality of life for all. While your reasoning for dissolving the committee is because it is what has been stated as unnecessary, I strongly disagree. And I would strongly advise against a decision to dismantle the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Washington County would benefit from a sincere commitment from the Board County of Commissioners to filling these vacancies, promoting the existence of the committee with all residents in the county. But with the wording that was just used, coming from a public place, it was quite disturbing, looking at the words of unnecessary. So as everything else has been already stated, I just want to deal with what I may feel may be unnecessary as well. Because we as a race, as a people, we are necessary. So to say that this committee, which was established to help you in the areas of this, I see a board here that does not represent us in person. So what's unnecessary? What I would say is unnecessary is the arrogant attempt to openly advertise your agenda while refusing to properly assimilate this information to the same board in a proper, timely manner. What is unnecessary is the blatant bestow of the bulging of your biceps of bureaucracy, Mr. Harvey, of breaking the bridge that was set up to help bridge the gap of not just diversity and inclusion, but also equity and equality. What's unnecessary is the commission's consistent absence and accountability in the board meetings. What's unnecessary is the lack of foresight that there would not be a forecast of a fight and thought that there may be a flight in this situation. What's unnecessary is for a board of diversity in representing, speaking, strategizing, and voting to dismantle a committee and organization established to give the insight and to keep accountability with this board beyond your intelligence, beyond your experience, your ideology, and some of your instincts. And lastly, what's unnecessary is to think that the dismantling, what's unnecessary is to continue to perceive that this prototype has been viewed in years past of not coming together in this county as a race. But with this attempt, I want you to know that the bear has been poked. And as we collaborate as a race and consolidate our resources, we're going to come together not to repeat to defeat, nor to compete for that which is already due towards us, but rather come to complete what diversity and inclusion has been defined and mandated and stand for. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. I'm Bianca Pierre, 412 West Franklin Street, Hagerstown. I want to preface this with Derek Harvey in the beginning. You made a comment about members of Zion being represented. We've had you at our church, Impact Ministries. I don't know if you were referring to us, but we are not representing Zion. I just want to preface this with, this is constructive criticism, so bear with me. So I'm a resident of Washington County, and I'm deeply troubled by the Washington County's commissioners believing that the need for an advisory committee on diversity and inclusion has diminished. The fight for affirmative action was to prevent the dismantling of the efforts of diversity and inclusion within our schools and local government. However, it appears that without the accountability of the law, many of the efforts that existed to promote diversity and inclusion are now considered obsolescent and unnecessary. It is disheartening that a board that lacks diversity and inclusion can determine that the need for such an advisory board is unnecessary, when you all are actively seeking to bring inclusion for voters in Hancock based on their geographic location within the county. It is a priority to provide convenience for those citizens, but unnecessary that we continue the efforts that provide representation, economic growth, unity, and an opportunity to advise the commissioners on public policies relating to ethnic affairs. The Board of County Commissioners filed a lawsuit to support the voters of Hancock, more than an hour and a half away in Anne Arundel County, however, lacked the same passion and commitment to ensure that those who have been historically disenfranchised have an opportunity to voice their concerns about how these decisions can inadvertently disrupt diverse inclusion. While I understand that there is a concentration of diversity in Hagerstown, we are a part of the county and deserve adequate representation. It is alarming to me that such a tone-deaf consideration would be made at the expense of ethnic groups at a time where we're seeing diversity and inclusion in our state and local government. It is not clear what efforts the commissioners have exhausted to support the committee. However, as a resident of Washington County, I am perturbed and strongly oppose the dismantling of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. I would also like to challenge every commissioner to educate themselves on the importance of diversity and inclusion going forward. Thank you.
Any other citizens' participation this morning? Thank you. With that, we'll move on into our agenda item, Airport Strategic Plan Recommendation. Neil? And Andrew? Morning, gentlemen.
Since we have so many people here, is there any reason we should try to shift this 1040 item forward?
Morning, Commissioners. Andrew Ashenwin, Director of Public Works.
Neil Doran, Airport Director.
First off, I'd like to start by thanking all those who've been involved in this effort. I know it's been many months of work. We have 2 advisory board members from the airport committee in the audience. There's been a lot of staff involvement, as well as from the commissioners as well. So this morning, we're here seeking a motion to accept the airport strategic plan that would allow staff to take the necessary steps to implement the plan's business planning recommendations and adopt the proposed marketing and branding changes. The strategic plan document as presented was accepted and approved by the Airport Advisory Committee Board of Directors at their July 6, 2023 meeting. The AAC recommends to the Board of County Commissioners that these motions be approved. We are also before you for presentations as well as working group sessions with the commissioners in July and September, and also concurrently, we had meetings and discussions with stakeholder groups, including Allegiant Airlines. The acceptance of this plan and the business strategies are not a final approval to implement individual items, but would allow staff the ability to devote the necessary planning resources for ongoing evaluation and development. Some of those items include, but aren't limited to, on-call air service development, paid parking, passenger facility charges, development of land for aeronautical and non-aeronautical uses. If you'll proceed to the slides. So circling back to the marketing and branding logo, what you have on the screen there is a little bit of history, starting with the upper left-hand corner, which was the last time serious effort was taken by the airport to look at the logo and the name, which resulted in that. In 2012 and 2013, the county initiated countywide branding changes, and as you can see, that airplane logo was kind of mirrored and adopted into the new branding scheme. What we have to present today is based upon feedback from the commissioners. That includes adding Washington County to the airport logo, as well as new styling. And I'd like to thank our Public Relations Department for their efforts in coming up with these logo options for us with a new modern brand look and presentation. The next slide would be incorporating, we don't really have a slogan per se now. This would be introducing the Travel Elevated brand with HDR, and that would be our marketing tagline that we would look to incorporate with this change. Are there any questions so far as what's been presented?
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Neil, and to the advisory committee. I'd just like to clarify that we're not incorporating Washington County, Maryland, because this is our current logo. We're keeping Washington County, Maryland in our branding. So I just think that's an important distinction.
Other comments?
Parking, are you going to address that or anything, or is this time I can ask you a question?
Yes, you can go ahead and ask questions.
Just some thoughts on parking. Okay, we're going to have initial costs to put up the machine to do parking and ticketing. Will you use some of that money for internal improvements at the airport once we pay back the costs of establishment. Is that correct?
Correct. I mean, I'll let Neil talk a little bit further, but a lot of it is the airline operation itself. We want it to be more self-supporting, so we had some recent good news about additional flights this summer with Myrtle Beach. And so the idea would be that the additional customers and traffic help support that operation.
Okay, just one more thing before you respond, so pardon me. Any excess, including your response, any excess money above your budget from parking fees, will that maintain in your budget, will come back to our general fund? How does that work with the enterprise then?
The intention was to reinvest it in the airport and to make airline services as self-supporting as possible.
Okay.
And a lot of the big-ticket items that we are facing moving forward, for which there is no grant support available, this would allow us to pull from some of those resources.
Okay, one more question. I was talking to someone who traveled over Thanksgiving holiday and was talking about the airport. Will we be offering 1 hour free parking through that parking machine? Because we have people who will just will come and pull in, park, and greet their family coming back or pick up. Has that been considered? Because what I'm thinking of security is we do not want vehicles pulling up alongside of the airport waiting for people to pick up. So will it be some type of courtesy 1 hour free? I'm just throwing that out for thought, because there are many people who just come and pick up their families, so that do they park and have to pay, or is...
Yeah, I agree with you. Most airports do offer some free grace period. You park in the lot and you can see off your loved ones. It's just a matter of how long. Some airports make it 30 minutes, some make it an hour.
Just be my request as a suggestion. I'm not demanding it, but I think put that courtesy in there for people who are just going to come by and pick up their family and be there less than an hour.
I think that's a good
Unless
idea.
the flight's delayed, but anyway, just thoughts for you to consider. Thank you.
What are you asking today? You asking us to give you a consensus to move forward? You asking for a vote on a logo? You asking a vote on passenger facility fees, parking fees?
So in general, the plan kind of lays out, this is the strategy. So again, if we would go and work on a paid parking scenario, and that would come back before the board for adoption, because most likely we would need to get, the ticketing equipment and technology, as well as make some modifications to the parking lot. So we didn't want to go work on all that and that be the first time the board kind of understands that this is the strategy.
Yeah.
So on those things, that's why I said there'll be another opportunity to come back in, and actually some of these items, even here today, we'll have an opportunity to present. When it comes to the branding, that would be today.
I would prefer you, I would want to give you the go-ahead to work on passenger facility fees, parking fees, and you want us to pick a logo today, but you had a suggestion. What's your suggestion for the logo?
It would be what was on the previous slide. So those are all different variations, because we have, basically a square logo, one that's more horizontal, and then just the standalone. The one with the blue background is a silhouette. So really, all four of those are what would be used.
And I think the advisory board liked which one?
They're all of those. That's just.
Any of them would work for them, what they
Correct.
like.
That's the styling. So again, depending on whether or not we're looking to put the logo on something that needs to be a square format versus a.
I personally like either the ones on the one on the top left, I personally, so.
They're going to use all four of those.
Yeah.
In one way or another, depending upon the
They're
product.
different marketing strategies.
Right. So I'm fine with that.
What would the sign at the airport be, though? Which one?
Where?
Where there's one now, what would that sign turn to?
The entrance sign?
Yeah.
Well, we would work with a graphic artist to come up with that, but it perhaps could look like
It would incorporate this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept this package and to give them permission to move forward based upon our consensus, and they'll come back with the specifics on parking and other data points as needed.
Yeah, I'd second.
Yeah, my comments would just come back with the parking stuff so we get some clarity on that.
Okay. Ready to vote? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, point of order, if I may?
Yes.
Since we do have so many of our good citizens here, and they're here for the diversity inclusion thing, could we possibly move that forward without imposing on anybody else?
The only difficulty, there might be people planning to arrive at that time. It's already scheduled. That's money.
But we don't have anybody presenting that is,
A number of folks that have spoke here this morning.
otherwise it's going to be another hour for them.
I don't mind either way, just if somebody comes in at that time frame, we can address it then, okay?
I think the focus should be right now, we do have a large body of people here, and I'm interested in guarding their time.
I'm okay with it.
President? Okay.
Let's jump over to our 1040 agenda item, potential dissolution of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee discussion, and I'm going to open it up to our administrator.
Okay. The Diversity and Inclusion Committee was formed to provide recommendations regarding ethnic affairs, promote the involvement of ethnic groups in business and community affairs, and advocate services and programs relating to the quality of life for all residents in Washington County. This committee serves in an advisory capacity. The committee has no decision-making authority, 7 voting members and 3 non-voting members. Ex officio members serve on this committee. Meetings are to be held throughout the year according to a schedule set annually and are open to the public. The most recent revision to the Diversity and Inclusion Committee bylaws occurred on July the 16th of 2019. Those are included in your packet. Article 8, amendments to the bylaws of the committee bylaws, identifies the bylaws may be amended, repealed, modified, or altered in whole or in part by the Board of County Commissioners in their sole discretion. We are reviewing compliance and effectiveness of all boards and commissions, and similar to the recent dissolution of the ESAC committee, and after a review and audit of this board was performed, it was found that this board has no structure or goals. They do not get out into our community regularly, and they do not meet on a regular basis. When they do meet, they often do not have a quorum. They have not been following their bylaws by getting members approved by the Board of County Commissioners. And the last minutes on file are from 2021. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to you for review and discussion.
So I made an opening statement, I don't know if everybody heard it, about maybe the wording was wrong. That's not an excuse, I get it, in the agenda. But, I've been here 5 years, and I have yet to see, and maybe it's part of my fault. I'm not the commissioner on that committee, and that's still no excuse. I get it. But I got 9 committees. And 5 years, this committee has not functioned, period, not functioned. We have other committees that don't function well. That's just the way it is. So, too late? Probably we are, and doing something about this. Probably should have took action earlier. But if it's not functioning, my intent as a commissioner is to try to get it to function. I mean, we had a lot of emails, a lot of opinions, a lot of good opinions, and I appreciate it. Let chips fall where they fall. But if we have a community, I don't think there's one commissioner disagrees with any of it. If we have a community, get engaged. I was just challenged a little while ago from one of the speakers. I challenge you to get engaged. Make this committee work. You'll have my 100, I'm 100% behind it. But it has not worked. And yeah, we'll take some of the blame for that. But, we can't handhold every committee. They have to, show that they really care and they want this for the good of our mission in the community. So, I don't know what else to say about it. I said, I challenge everybody that sent me emails, some of them judgmental, which I took offense to, but I signed up for this, I'm good with it, to help get this thing rolling. It's that important to the community, I heard you, and I agree with you, but help us get this thing rolling. That's my input.
Go ahead.
I want to thank everyone who came out today for the comments. And I agree with what Randy said. I was surprised by the language. I understand that staff did it, and they used previous language from the decommissioning of a committee earlier, and that was a mistake. The intent here, and the other commissioners know this, is to fix it. And as Randy said, you have to diagnose what the problem is. And, it's been attendance, it's been a number of things, but you can't ignore it, and, shedding light on it and getting this fixed is my objective. Zumi, I see you're out here, our chair lady we work together on the Historical Commission, and we have good people, but we have an absence of participation in not just this board, but a number of boards, as Randy said. The purpose is good, diversity, inclusion, finding ways to advance equal opportunity, advising with solid, data-driven work to come up with a good diagnosis to help us understand things better, and with some good recommendations, not just working on that board and focusing on us, but also interplaying, I think, interacting with other boards and commissions, with the Zoning Commission and others. There are constructive ways to do this, but the only way it takes hard work, okay? And everyone, I think, who used their voice today, I commend you for taking your time and using your voice today, because, that takes energy and time from you, and you have to put yourself out there. But you all know, too, because you're active in the community, it is hard to get volunteers to actually. And a lot of people will show up, but then they don't want to do the work. They don't want to do the research and then think and collaborate and team build to come up with a recommended solution and then navigate the process. None of this is easy. I wish it was much easier than it is. But I think the intent here, John, you are the commissioner representative to that board, and Wayne, I think you had been on it previously. I don't know what specific recommendations either of you would have to help make it better, but it begins with getting good people who are sincere, who can work with others. And, as Randy said, we're going to fix this, because I think that's the objective here. And I apologize to everyone if anyone thought there was an intent here. I was surprised by the language, and I was not here for the previous meeting that was in closed session to go over the history of this thing. I had to be out of town for my work, my other business. So I think we have, my recommendation is that we dissolve the current membership, use them as advisors as we reconstruct and we recruit. And I would ask to see if we could get some volunteers from people that use their voices here today, okay? And you'd reach out to the county administrator and to the members of the current Diversity and Inclusion Board. We'll work this process forward. But I think we just need to pull it together. And that would be my recommendation, that we restructure, reorganize, and work towards focusing the energy on this part of our charter.
No, I'll have to say I wholeheartedly agree. It's a very important committee for this community, and we need active participation.
Can I interject one thing, please? Sure. It is, in theory it is, but it's only in theory unless you actually do something. It can be an important element, an important factor, but we need to just do the work. And, I think we had this, I heard the comments, and there was, in theory it was, they're talking about, but it wasn't actually doing anything. Now, for whatever reason, I don't know that background, but I just wanted to make that point. We need it to be, but it hasn't been.
Exactly. No, I agree, and what I started to say is we need active participants on the committee that are willing to roll up their sleeves, get involved, be faithful in either attending the meeting or zooming into the meeting. I've personally been frustrated. You call in, there's 3 people on the line. We can't vote. The committee doesn't have even a quorum. And what I've heard here today from the community is there certainly ought to be a full committee of 7 or 9 and 100% participation at every meeting. And it's obviously important to this community, and it needs to be revitalized.
Couple comments, if I may. This committee was formed during my first term, or conceptualized at least, as a county commissioner. Separately, Mr. Arthur Hicks approached Commissioner Terry Baker at the time, and Ms. Zuni Miller approached me at the time separately about the same subject, about having a diversity and inclusion committee. Also, oddly enough, at that time, it's interesting how things just kind of work together and push an idea forward. I was having a conversation with a former county commissioner, Greg Snook. I don't think he'd mind me sharing his name, and he commented to me, he said, you know, one thing where I feel Washington County struggles is getting a diverse applicant pool. And that was, I think, a reason I really wanted to see a diversity committee formed to help with our applicant pools for county government positions, jobs within county government. And we worked with our county clerk at the time, Vicki Lum. I think Kirk Downey, our county attorney, was involved in creating the bylaws for us. And I was the commissioner representative for about the first year. Then my work schedule changed, and I passed that on to another commissioner. And I know we've had a couple commissioners represent that committee over the years. I would rather not see the committee dissolved. If we need to change the bylaws, I think that's important. I think there's some frustration that maybe there isn't a quorum at a lot of the meetings. A lot of our committees, every committee that we have, and we have 35 or so committees, that there's different level of input. I think I'm hearing a lot more out of the Women's Commission since your wife has become a member of that commission, and there's just, every committee maybe go through ups and downs. I think there's some concern about involvement from the committee members. I think that's important. I wouldn't dissolve the committee. I disagree with the comment that the committee doesn't get out into the community regularly. I know there has been listening tours in different communities. I believe the committee has been a faithful attendee at the Moggsville Rutan days, some events out in the community where they'll set up a booth or a table. So they do get out into the community. I think in every committee that we have there, or every nonprofit board, there's a handful of people that really pull most of the weight. I'd like to see the committee be more engaged in attending the meetings. I wouldn't do away with it. I think I was a little surprised to see this as an agenda item for this week. It's clear that, you know, the intent was to dissolve the committee. We did have a conversation with two of our committee members came before us, and we discussed the committee, and I asked the question, would this committee be better served if it was standalone, not necessarily part of county government, but just a community nonprofit? And the committee member said, no, it's important to have the backing of county government. And I think that changed my opinion on that subject. So those are my thoughts. I'd like to keep it, keep the membership, but and we have in our bylaws, lack of attendance could remove someone from a committee. So maybe that needs to be enforced. As maybe was already said, we've had many speakers today. I hope you flood the county's application portal for serving on committees, not just this committee, but other committees as well. Please do that. But I think we should keep it, rework it, retool it definitely, but keep it.
Yeah, I'd like to speak too. First and foremost, thank everybody for being here and those who emailed and called me and I talked to directly. I too think there is a need for this committee to be reorganized and to be supported by county government. they did do some outreach. I attended one of the outreach meetings in Clear Spring that they had up there many months ago, and I was surprised by the language and offer my apologies for the way that was worded. It could have been better, well-written on that. But I too think we need to reorganize, restructure. I saw more interest in the past 24 hours for this committee than ever before, so I applaud you all for coming to the rescue, or where the correct word is, in support of this group. So I'd like to make a motion that we just reorganize, reconstitute this committee under new members. Is that adequate enough to do, or is there more should be in it, Commissioners?
If I could just clarify, by new members, there are some committee members who do attend even if without a quorum.
33 active members, is that correct, Lane, right now?
That's correct. There's
So we
only
need
3 active members.
At least 4 more?
So you're not talking about removing those members that are active?
No.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
Thanks for the clarity on that.
And there's no need, there's no desire to change any of the bylaws, because that would need to come back before you.
Not at this time.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, you got a second, first and a second.
First and second. Call for the vote.
I would ask that we reevaluate this in 6 months to make sure that it's
Please.
working.
We'll give
Okay.
it 6 months.
Call for the vote.
Right. All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
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 My
Opposed?
vote. Thank
Same
you very
sign.
much.
Next item is Rural Maryland 50 Economic Development Grant Acceptance, Hagerstown Regional Airport. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Right back.
Andrew Eshelman, Director of Public Works, Washington County.
Neil Doran, Airport Director.
So we're here seeking a motion to accept and execute the Rural Maryland 50 Economic Development Grant for the Hagerstown Regional Airport in the amount of $755,000 for the Northwest Quadrant Utility Extension and Air Park sign. And again, this dovetails, I think, into what we just approved, trying to find ways to encourage development activity and business development at the airport. So how we got here, the state budget for fiscal year 2023 appropriated $50 million to the Maryland Department of Commerce to provide grants to the state's 5 rural regional councils to support economic development projects in the counties within their regions. The airport applied and was notified of award for $755,000 in program funds. We're seeking to use these funds to extend electric and fiber optic conduit lines along Air Park Road, that would be the area north of the airfield, as well as water to the south side of this road, providing future access for development in the northwest quadrant of the airport. The extension of utilities will increase the site's potential for future development by lowering the prospective development cost that someone would see if they were choosing to develop a hangar site, as well as a digital Air Park sign at the western end of Air Park Road that would be visible to over 70,000 daily vehicles traveling along I-81. This sign would allow on-premise advertising of Hagerstown Regional Airport, its business tenants, and available developable land. This grant is 100% state funding and requires no local funding match.
Motion to approve.
Motion and second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is contract award, PUR 1609, Air Service Development Consulting Services requirements.
Good morning, Rick Curry, Director of Purchasing.
Neil Doran, Airport Director.
Subject before you is contract award PUR 1609, Air Service Development Consulting Services. Recommended motion to award a contract to provide air consulting services requirements for the Hagerstown Regional Airport to responsible firm, Valair Aviation Incorporated of Fishers, Indiana, who submitted a total lump sum for the annual base services in the amount of $48,000, and the total on-call proposal value in the amount of $48,400, for a total amount of $96,400. The purpose of the contract is to retain services of a consulting firm to provide all services defined herein, which consist of market analysis, route analysis, air service presentation preparation, airline business case development, preparation, support, ongoing data and analysis, additional assignments, on-call services, extra work, incentive programs, air service development grant programs, passenger facility charge applications, and community relations. This is a 2-year contract. For the first 2 years, there are no price increases. For the remaining 3 years, there is a 3% price increase that will be automatically applied. The RFP was advertised in the various newspapers on the websites as listed in the ARF. 2 firms was represented in the proposal, and funds are listed on the ARF as to where the funds will be coming from. You have concurrence from the coordinating committee, and also you have the scope of work from the document, and there is Valaire's price proposal, also an attachment. Questions?
Is this renewal? We've had this before, right? Or is this all new?
This is the first time we've had an ongoing retainer for an air service development firm, but we have worked with Valaire in the past in one-off requests to support spring meetings with Allegiant Airlines in their conference.
Motion to approve.
Second, just a question if I can. The various line item accounts, there's a couple general ledger numbers there, or account numbers. Those numbers don't mean anything to me. What accounts do they represent?
We have a sub-department of our budget for airline service, and we have one for marketing and one for consulting services. So we have
One's
enough.
marketing, one's consulting.
Yes, so we have enough money to cover the costs for the remaining months of this fiscal year. And next year, look for us to just adjust consulting services high enough to cover this cost.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor, ready to vote. All in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, 4-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Sole source procurement, PUR 1655, 2004 Crimson Spartan Rescue Vehicle.
Brandy Nagelbauer in the Purchasing Department.
Neil Doran, Airport Director.
The recommendation I have for you this morning is a sole source procurement, PUR 1655, for 2004 Crimson Spartan Rescue Vehicle. Move to authorize a sole source procurement for the purchase of one new rescue vehicle in the amount of $60,000 from Penfield Volunteer Fire Company out of Penfield, Pennsylvania, as per their quote dated November 20th, 2023. The vehicle has approximately 12,000 miles on it. The proposed acquisition includes Hurst Tremo rescue tools, including a cutter, a spreader, and a ram. These tools were intended to be purchased over the next few years. The airport has budgeted $48,000 for the purchase of those tools. These highly specialized trucks normally cost between $650,000 to $1.1 million to buy new. Additionally, if this purchase is awarded, the department will seek to sell any of their extra tools that they're going to use the newer tools and sell the older ones on the GovDeals website. The Hagerstown Regional Airport wishes to apply sections 1-106.4 of the Code of Local Public Laws of Washington County to this procurement. This section states that an expedited sole source procurement is authorized and permissible when the need for the expedited procurement outweighs the benefit of the procurement process. The request requires the approval of 4 out of 5 commissioners to proceed with this procurement. There is funding available in the capital improvement budget for this department.
Are we okay with a 20-year-old vehicle? Obviously. We must be.
A 20-year, excuse me.
Isn't it a 2004?
Yes, we've personally examined, I need to recognize our airport fire chief, Danny Shirley. He's personally traveled to the site and looked at the vehicle. It's been well maintained, low mileage, and we have no concerns as to its operability. We think this is just a fantastic opportunity to add equipment we don't have and allow us to bring those rescue tools to an incident very quickly, which you need to do with aircraft fuel fires.
I realize it's low miles, but obviously it hasn't been abused or left sit out in the weather and the elements and that sort of thing, and I see the, so.
Yeah, it's been in service. It's just been in a rural area that didn't run a lot of calls, and there was a consolidation of departments where now it's surplus for them.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, 4-0. So,
Thank you very
go.
much.
Thank you. Next item, approval of First Amendment to PIA lease with expanded area and increases to lease rate and annual escalator.
Neil Doran, Airport Director.
Andrew Eshelman, Director of Public Works.
Thank you for the opportunity to present this item. Many are aware the Pittsburgh Institute of Aeronautics has had a presence at the Hagerstown Regional Airport for about a decade now, and they remain Maryland's only FAA-certified Part 147 school training aviation mechanics. Give a valuable contribution to our community. It's been in the news that they recently received some grant funding, and they have an intention to expand their facilities, which would require an expansion of their lease area at the airport so that they could build additional apron area and expand out buildings and take on more students. So we had originally a 2012 lease, and it contained a clause that allowed us to determine fair market value at 10-year increments by means of appraisal service. And so we completed this, and we had subsequent meetings with PIA where they had asked us to give some consideration to the lease rate that would start in lease year 12. So what we have before you here is a request for a motion to approve this first addendum. This is an increase to the lease rate that's paid per square foot per year. Currently, they're paying 27.6 cents per square foot, and this would increase them to 45 cents per square foot per year. Another change would be the fixed escalator, annual escalator that addresses inflation, would increase from 2% to 2.5%. For all the 39 remaining years of their lease term arrangement with us. Also want to bring up another point that the property to the north within this lease area, we have a residential property that's owned by the county, owned by the airport, and we have an indemnity statement that was drawn up related to the fact that there is an above-ground pool there, and the pool overhangs the new lease area by a few feet. We view this to be just a temporary use to allow the children of the renters there to enjoy that for a few seasons, and PIA has agreed to that arrangement. Are there any questions for us about what we've worked on? But this amendment to the lease will allow the project to move forward for PIA.
Yeah, and that's a total, including the new square foot, they had 1,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet?
10,000.
10,000? Yeah, it includes the whole footprint of the whole building at that point.
Yeah.
Not just the 10,000.
Yes.
Yes, it includes the building footprint as well as a lot area that would be required as if it almost came in as a standalone site plan.
Yep.
So it does have buffers.
This is a win-win for both entities.
Yeah. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, 4-0.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next item is rejection of bid PUR 1647, swimming pool resurfacing and associated improvements.
Good morning, Brandy Nagelbauer, Purchasing Department.
Andrew Eshelman, Director of Public Works.
The last recommendation I have for you this morning is the rejection of bid PUR 1647, swimming pool resurfacing and associated improvements. Move to take action in the best interest of the county to request the bid for swimming pool resurfacing and associated improvements at the Marty Snook Pool be rejected to the bid exceeding the estimated budget. The department shall make changes to the existing document and do request permission to re-advertise. This bid was listed on the eMaryland Marketplace website, the county's website, and the local newspaper. 27 companies downloaded the document, and we received one bid, which was over budget. So we are asking to reject this bid and re-advertise.
Yeah, so what's your plan, Andrew, just to send it out again?
Yeah, so I mean, we need to make a few changes, and so we're looking at the spec that we provided, as well as we had incorporated some underwater lighting to go ahead and get that done at the same time, so we may potentially break that out separately, but we have a little bit of time, you know, before the start of the season to rebid it and see if we get better results. As you know, we had some mid-season repairs that we needed to complete last year, and so we're looking to try to avoid that for this upcoming season.
Motion to approve to reject the bid.
Second.
Motion is second. Ready to vote? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
I abstain since I wasn't here for most of the discussion.
4-0.
Thank you.
Next item is quotation award 23-765 APC Advance License Renewal. Morning, gentlemen.
Rick Curry, Director of Purchasing.
Ashley Neal, Chief Technical Officer.
Before you is quotation award Q 23-765 APC Advantage Licensing Renewal. Recommended motion move quotation for APC Advantage PC licensing to the responsible bidder, GHA Technologies of Scottsdale, Arizona, who submitted a responsive lump sum total of $67,736.82 over a 3-year period. The annual maintenance contract is for cooling and humidity control in the Maine County's data center. Code of Public Laws states that a contract over $50,000 for the purchase or other expenditures shall be awarded by the board to the lowest responsible bidder who submits a responsive bid. Requests for quotations are processed for purchases of commodities and services not exceeding $50,000 and are normally awarded at the departmental level in concurrence with the purchase department. Due to APC Advantage licensing renewal costs, quote, exceeding $50,000, the quotation is before the board for an award. It was anticipated that this would not exceed a $50,000 threshold, which would never have been brought before you. Excuse me. There are funds budgeted for this services, and you do have a GHA Technologies quote attached. Questions?
No,
Comments,
motion to
questions?
approve.
Have a second? Okay. Motion is second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, 5-0. Thank you very much. Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Program, MALP, 60/40 match for FY '24. Morning.
Morning,
Chris.
Commissioners. Chris Boggs, Department of Planning and Zoning, Rural Preservation Administrator. So every year, every December, I bring this item to you. This is the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation 60/40 match mechanism for their MALP easements. Of course, MALP is a conservation easement program centered on preserving prime agricultural land in the state. Each year, we have the opportunity to commit county funds to the 60/40 match. The way that works is for every $40 the county commits, the state will match $60 up to $2 million. So if we max it out, which we intend to do this year, the county will commit $1,333,333, and the state will match it with $2 million. The commitment requested today will result in a total funding of about $5 million this coming fiscal year for easement purchases. This includes a $1.7 million general allotment and then the 60/40 match as well. The way it works is the state takes their pool of Maryland Ag Land Preservation Program easement funds and they divide it in half. And half of it, they split equally amongst all of the participant counties. That's called the general allotment. And the other half, they use for the 60/40 match. So counties that provide their matching portion, the state will match that. So we expect to preserve about at least 10 farms or about 1,000 acres with this coming fiscal year. the general, or the county's general fund isn't impacted. We are using funds from the state agricultural transfer tax and the county's ag transfer tax. The state ag transfer tax funding account here in the county can only be used for mouth easements. And then the county's ag transfer tax can be used for any land preservation effort, but it has to be used for land preservation. So this year, as I mentioned before, we have the ability to maximize the matching portion, which we did last year, and this will be the first time that we've been able to do it 2 years in a row. So looks like things are going pretty well. The Ag Board, of course, supports this commitment, and so the recommended motion would be to approve the county's portion of $1,333,333 from the ag transfer tax for the state and county ends for the 60/40 match component for the mouth FY24 easements.
Motion to approve is stated.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Question I do have, Chris, do we know, you mentioned across the state, how many of the 23 counties participate in this?
Well, only certified counties can participate in the 60/40 match. And I think there were, of the 23 counties in the state, I think there are around 15 or 17 counties that are certified, and the rest are not. So you have to meet a certain number of, certain set of different parameters to be a certified county through mouth. And, Washington County, of course, we've been, yearly, a certified county for a couple decades now, so.
One of the reasons I asked that question is a lot of times the commissioners get approached that, we don't care about agriculture and, we're not preserving enough. And so, contrary to some of those thoughts, we are progressive in this endeavor.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to tell you right now, with the funding we're getting for this coming fiscal year, it's going to be a banner year for AgPres. It's going to be a pretty
You don't
big,
look for, there's no way with the state of the budget coming down from Annapolis, is there any shot that could be defunded some, or?
No, because essentially, they have their amount for FY24 set. They had that, set a couple months ago. I know they have $95 million for this coming fiscal year, which is the most they've ever had, and they don't know if they'll ever have that much again. But we're happy to see it. So it's just been a good year as far as the transfer taxes are concerned and the funding of the programs.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor, ready to vote. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Good job, Chris. Thanks. Next item is adoption of county hazard mitigation plan.
Good morning.
Morning, Tom.
Tom Brown, Director of Emergency Management for Washington County. This morning, I would like to recommend that you move to adopt through resolution the 2023 updated Washington County Hazard Mitigation Plan. Beginning in July of 2022, Washington County Office of Emergency Management, along with other county departments and local municipalities, representatives, began working to update the Washington County Hazard Mitigation Plan, which is required to occur every 5 years. As we worked through the update process, a public meeting was held to allow public a chance to express their thoughts on the updated plan. This meeting was conducted in person through live stream services. 2 surveys were also distributed by the county in an effort to obtain feedback from Washington County citizens. Since the completion of the draft plan, it has been sent to the Maryland Department of Emergency Management and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, with both agencies approving the update. So the next step in the process is adoption at the local level, which is why I'm here today. Washington County recognizes that the threat of natural and technological hazards posed to people and property, and that an adopted multi-hazard mitigation plan is required as a condition of future funding for hazard mitigation projects through grant. Washington County also recognizes that undertaking mitigation projects during pre-disaster periods could decrease total losses that the county incurs as a result of disasters, and this project was undertaken in an effort to further identify, define, and characterize the hazards that affect Washington County, as well as to continue identifying and prioritizing projects that could lessen hazard vulnerability. So adoption of this plan allows Washington County future funding opportunities for hazard mitigation projects, which without an adopted plan would require funds to be used from the general budget. So the steps moving forward from here, hopefully a vote for a adoption resolution is reached today. Once that's done, then my office sends that to the Maryland Department of Emergency Management and FEMA. FEMA then sends an official approval letter for the plan. And then at that point, myself and my staff start going to the municipality meetings and explaining to them what the plan is, what's included, even though that, with the person that was their representative. And they adopt a plan, and then hopefully the entire county then adopts this plan, and they're then eligible for funding.
So basically, we're just giving you a motion to approve this updated count, and it goes to FEMA then?
Yeah, we send an actual resolution. There was a resolution attached. It went through county attorney's office for content, but we need the resolution for formal adoption to send to FEMA.
So motion to adopt the 2023 updated Washington County Hazard Mitigation Plan?
Second. Motion?
That's a motion.
Okay.
I'll second just for some additional comments here. This is related to a document we received last week, I believe.
It is.
I think it's interesting to point out some of the summaries of the risk rankings, starting at the highest risk opioid epidemic, fire, severe winter weather, flooding, tornado, land subsidence. Maybe you can explain that a little bit more. Reportable disease epidemic, severe summer weather, wildfire, hazardous material, drought, transportation accidents, dam failures, and extreme temperatures.
So some of those hazards were identified through past experiences or past incidents and disasters. Some were identified based off of the citizens and what they consider to be important, and some of them are new. Cybersecurity, pandemic-related disease, they weren't in the plan previously. So, but yeah, that's how we came up with the list.
But is a disease a hazard?
I can tell you that it created a disaster for us.
But it's a county hazard.
Okay.
Fine hazard.
Okay. So most jurisdictions have pandemics located in their hazard mitigation plan.
In the hazard mitigation plan, okay.
Because it is something we have to.
You had there,
Land subsidence.
It is something that we have to plan for.
What was?
Land substance, it has to do with soil erosion and the change in the topographical maps and so on and so forth.
So, Tom, because the public brings it up, still has to be data behind it. There still has to be analytical rigor by your office to make sure that whatever's brought up actually has some validity and ranks, in a realistic, spectrum, focusing on it, because we're not really Tornado Alley. How many tornadoes?
We've had them before. We need to be prepared for them.
Okay, and did we have a big one?
I don't remember. It created damage to
a few
property
farmhouses?
damage to, I think last one was near Smithsburg. Created property damage and so on and so forth.
Yeah, but it was, okay.
We've had an earthquake too.
This hazard mitigation plan is really to try to make sure that if a potential issue happens, we are covered should we need to get federal funding. And a lot of the issues that came about as a result of the pandemic were mandated down from either the federal government or the state government. So some of those things we had no control over.
The one I worry about the most is rail hazard, chemical transport, like what happened in Ohio. That's what I worry about. That's what I've talked to you about before. So,
Hazardous materials are indicated within.
but it's the intersection of rail, our population centers, and those chemicals. Okay, well, I think we have a motion.
Yeah, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I had seconded for,
That's right, Wayne, you second.
and if I could just ask one more follow-up question, I don't know what kind of time constraint we're in. I see some designated people in our municipalities are like the point person, I guess, for each town. To what degree do they have a responsibility to follow this, or and to what degree are we responsible for, think of some of our smaller communities, Keedysville, if an incident were to happen there, they don't have a very large staff.
So this is a plan, not a policy. So as with all plans, they can change. This is a guide, not just for the county, but for the municipalities, to, in a time when there's not a disaster, to have, number one, the ability to seek funding, to help them with pre-disaster mitigation projects, which are identified in this plan, and to try to get those completed. 6 months down the road, if, and each of the municipalities contributed, their person contributed to what their project should be within their municipalities too, in addition to the county. That's why they're involved. And if 6 months down the road, they decide, you know what, we don't think this project's feasible, or we really don't think there's a priority for this anymore, we like this project better, then a modification to the plan can be made, and it can be submitted to FEMA. And we can do that. As with all plans and all these projects that are in there, by adopting it, it does not legally bind any of the jurisdictions to have to complete them and spend money to do that. It is strictly a guide to say, this is what we, Washington County and the municipalities, would like to do moving forward for the next 5 years to try to mitigate disasters.
Thank you.
Answer your question. Other questions or comments? We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. 5-0. Thank you very much, Tom. Next item is establish FY '24 budget for the 250th anniversary event. Michelle?
The 250th Anniversary Event Committee has had several meetings to discuss event details and the need to establish a budget for this event that will take place in 2026. The committee has determined that in the current fiscal year, funding is needed to hire graphics firm, create logos, and begin relationship with an event planner. Additionally, to begin the process of securing facilities, rental equipment and items, coordinating promotional books and materials, making deposits on fireworks displays, and soliciting donations for this capstone event. The committee will need to purchase a limited amount of supplies and promotional materials in the current fiscal year. I have established a potential budget on fiscal year '24 of $38,000, fiscal year '25 potentially $54,000, fiscal year '26, which is where the majority of the event activities will occur, will likely be a net effect of $153,000. Because we're planning a capstone event, we're likely going to be able to garner donations from local businesses and individuals to help support any of those activities. And then in fiscal year '27, since July the 4th of 2026 is actually in fiscal year '27, we could potentially have some funding in fiscal year '27. So I'll turn it over to Danielle at this time to kind of go over what we've been talking about with the committee, and as well as what types of ideas we've come up with for the actual event.
Yeah, we are potentially planning to hold an event at the Ag Center where we would have multiple types of bands, possibly a reenactment, some different things that could go on with a kid zone, really trying to bring out families from the community to come out to the event that we're holding for the 250th. We've talked about possibly handing out copies of the Declaration of Independence. That tends to happen a lot of different 4th of July events. We will give out different giveaways. We'll definitely be purchasing American flags this year because it could come to where when we go to purchase them, if we wait until 2026, we may not be able to get them because everyone in the nation is going to be celebrating the 250th. We've talked about possibly even putting together like walking trails, like history walks, and like I said, reenactments, deeming some of the buildings that were here 250 years ago and placing plaques on them. So there's some different things that we have planned that will require us to have financial support. We have decided that we will actually take on the logos and website design in-house using my staff. So we will not need funding for that portion of the event. And then there's some other things that we've talked about, even creating like coins that we could potentially give to the different towns that are holding their events. So it could be basically a trail, like similar to the ice cream trail, where if you attend this event, you can pick up a coin, and then we have a big capstone event coin that they would receive if they have completed all of the stops.
So Williamsport, Boonesboro, and other communities, Hancock, are planning events leading up to this.
We're trying to get them involved. It's
Right.
been a little bit of a struggle because I think it is so far in
out.
advance.
No, I understand that, but are we going to budget for anticipating some augmentation to their efforts?
We hadn't planned to augment any of their efforts, but we would work together with all of them to make sure that there weren't any overlapping events. For example, we would want to make sure that Hancock and Boonesboro don't have an event planned on the same day. So we wanted to make sure that we are advertising this to the community to get everyone to go out to each of the different local communities, not just to one or two.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that there might be a need for us to think in terms of having some money programmed.
We certainly would have a booth at each one of the towns to make sure that we have
to
things
maybe
there.
support some of the town events that also benefit
That's certainly an
us.
idea we can consider, absolutely.
I know I'm the commission member on this committee, and
I think it's a great idea, I really do.
okay.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it was a lot of these towns, they already hold events, so it was kind of trying to get them to brand it into the 250th along with us. So I don't know that they would need additional funding, but it's certainly something that we could offer.
That's all I'm thinking about.
One question I have, this is also the 250th birthday of Washington County on September 6th. Will we be including any type of celebration for that milestone?
We likely would be. We have funding included in fiscal year '27. As we get closer to that, it's certainly something that we should consider increasing that amount for.
Okay.
I move to approve the request.
Second.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? Motion is second to approve as submitted. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, 5-0. Thank you very much, Danielle. Next item, FY '23 excess of revenue discussions.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kelsey Mace, Chief Financial Officer. I'm bringing back before you another discussion on the excess revenues from FY '23. FY '23 excess of revenues over expenditures in the general fund was approximately $25 million. $5 million of that remains in the general fund, and $20 million was transferred into the capital fund. It is staff's recommendation to maybe put $5 million into the pension fund, allocate $10 million for upcoming improvements at the courthouse and/or detention center, and keep the remaining $10 million in the capital reserve for consideration during the FY '25 capital budget process.
Can you restate that again, please?
So it is staff recommendation for $5 million to go into the pension fund, allocate $10 million for improvements at the courthouse and/or detention center, and keep the remaining $10 million in the reserve for consideration during the FY25 capital budget process.
And I just wanted to add to the last discussion we had, Commissioner Kiefer had questions regarding our pension fund funding status. The unfunded liability for fiscal year '23 in the county's pension fund is $102.9 million. It is a decrease from fiscal year '22's unfunded liability of $108 million, and the funded ratio for fiscal year '23 is 64.5%, and that has increased from 61% in fiscal year '22, primarily due to inflationary increases we received in interest revenue. Private pension funds are typically funded at an average of 103.9%, and have always been required to be funded at 100%. Public pension trust funds were only recently required to be funded at 100%, and so we should at least maintain that national average for public pension fund trusts. In 2022, public pension trust funds average funding ratio increased to 77.8% on a nationwide basis, which is decreased slightly in July of 2023 to 76.8%. So the county's funded status of 64.5% is well below the national average, and so it is something that we do need to work on.
Do we know how much a $5 million infusion to the pension would bump up that 64.5%?
I don't know off the top of my head how much that would change it.
I have a quick calculation, barring all other changes, so this doesn't factor in investment performance or anything, but directly, it would be about a 2% boost, barring all other conditions.
One of my concerns is the Washington Post article from a day ago about Governor Moore's transportation. It listed several road projects to be defunded by 81. So I'm just concerned about our capital reserve. Do we have enough money for all our other projects, especially if 81's defunded? Are they going to, our highway user revenues won't go up? All those shortfalls from that, I'm concerned that we are, I appreciate we're putting it back in capital reserve. We have no idea highway user revenues most likely won't go up. That's paving and chip and sealing the roads. So I support this plan.
I, for the most part, Randy and Jeff and Wayne, John, I support this plan. I'd like to just make one variation, and I would like to see us decrease the $10 million that you asked to be set aside for the courthouse and other contingencies, and take $1.5 million of that for designation into the Agricultural Preservation Fund. It's not an operational fund, but we've gotten a lot of pushback on things like warehousing and development, and you know, I noted that we have actual farmland preservation, long-term preservation is about 15,000 acres, Jeff, but it's.
Yeah, I'm interrupting you, sorry. One of the things I failed to ask Chris Boggs as a follow-up to Randy Wagner's question, this is going to be a banner year for money from the state at $95 million, but
not for, it's not all ag preservation.
yeah, but what I'm saying is they could raid that pot of money.
Absolutely
at any given
right.
time, and that's why I'll support that, either now or as a budget item, whatever you guys
I'd like us to do it now.
I'm concerned that money for land preservation is going to be raided by the current problem.
I worry about that too, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and that's why I asked that question. I thought maybe, I mean, just because it's there doesn't mean it's going to stay there. So, yeah, I'd be okay with that.
You want to make that a motion now, or?
I'd like to make it a motion now that, you know, at least 1.5 million is taken out of that 10 million is set aside for the courthouse and is designated for long-term agricultural preservation.
I'll second that. Okay.
I have two questions, if I can. So last week, we approved.
Motion on the floor. Could we do the motion on the floor first?
I thought we had a
We have a
motion.
motion,
sorry.
we do.
We have
and
first and a second.
Oh,
This is
second,
discussion.
oh, okay.
Have discussion,
Is this
yes.
related? Okay, I got it.
Last week, we approved 1.5 million for security improvements with the Board of Ed. Is that come out of the 10 million just in capital reserves? Was that part of the, is that part of what we're already allocating here? So, or was that separate money?
I took that out of what was already sitting in the capital reserve. It didn't necessarily have to come out of this amount.
Okay, gotcha. My other question, I appreciate some of the considerations given here. I think allocating money for some courthouse improvements, I think that deserves a very deep conversation that we need to have, and you know, none of us up here, well, maybe not all of us, security experts, especially when it comes to something like that, but I think we need some discussions. I think it's okay to start to allocate some money to that, but where do those enhancements and improvements need to be made, and make sure we're not allocating too much or we're not allocating enough. I think
Well, we
that's
may
important.
need, sorry to interrupt, but we may need a new courthouse.
Okay. And I said we may not be allocating enough.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's right.
aren't some of
yeah.
these being mandated from the state for upgrading? Am I correct on that?
Yeah, the only question I had is why are you doing 10 to the courthouse or the prison when you just put it all in capital? Same difference, isn't it, or am I totally wrong here?
Well, this would earmark that 10 million wouldn't be appropriated to any other projects without coming back
So
to the
you're
board.
starting to bank money for this, what's coming down the road, basically?
I'd like a more clear split between the courthouse and the detention center. I think that would be important. That's for down the road. I'm going to advocate one more time, fellas, some additional funding for the Commission on Aging, Meals on Wheels, 161. And I know that we're looking at one-time spending here, 161 seniors. We're on the wait list. These are medically homebound seniors. It's not the same as someone going and being able to drive to a church to get a free meal. That's not what Meals on Wheels, that's not the population that serves. And there has been a decrease in funding to the Commission on Aging, the Senior Center program from our budget, one budget year to the next. And I'd like to see some additional money. We don't have to fund that gap entirely, but I think that's an important program that I just want to advocate for any opportunity I can. Even if it's $100,000.
Okay, so we have first a motion on the floor.
Right, need to vote, ready to call for a vote.
So no interest in amending, just asking?
Well,
I mean, just asking. We can amend we can amend a motion. And if it's no, it's no. Just don't skip over, please, my question.
It's a no for me.
There's no
Okay.
support for it.
No.
At this time. That'd probably be a budget
I
request.
got too much other information that we were hoping we can talk about later.
I also want to point out that Andrew Eshelman and I have been working with Brett Wilson over at the courthouse, and we will be coming back to the board within the next month or so with a plan on the courthouse. I just want to let you know.
Good.
So back to one of Wayne's questions, though, are you doing 5 for 5 million for, are you just putting it all in one fund, 5 for detention center?
I'd wait and see how much each project started and do.
You can always separate
I
that.
would just set, as it's stated right now, I would just set the 8.5 million aside for either of the projects. And as we get into further discussions on either the courthouse or the detention center,
split
then you
them
can
off.
decide how much money you want to pull for
Okay.
each.
You said 8.5 million?
Yeah, if we take the 1.5 out for land
1.5.
preservation,
Taking
that'll
the
leave
1.5
8.5.
out of that first, okay.
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We good? Other discussion?
Could I,
Motion.
I have one other issue related to what Wayne said. I would, on the Commission on Aging, could we ask for some sort of an audit, outside audit, to take a look at how it's being run, particularly Meals on Wheels? I have some concerns there, and, maybe the county pays for that, but I don't know what the procedures would be for that, but, I agree, I'd like to get Meals on Wheels up and running better than it is.
I think
We have some work that needs to be done to figure out how to make that happen, because I don't think it actually got better when money was put into it last year. And maybe I'm completely wrong on that, but I'm just not comfortable.
That discussion, I'm going to have to, this whole discussion is not what was planned for today. I think there's a whole lot of information that that I'm getting in that I'd like to share. Maybe, I don't know how we do that, another agenda item. I think we give the Commission on Aging a chance to review anything we say or we hear. So I think, I just think it's this might be the proper time.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Okay. Motion to go into closed session for the reasons
Yeah.
stated?
Second.
Is that okay? Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into closed session. Let's take a 10-minute recess.